Greetings. Our readings today are for Sunday, June 8th, the day of Pentecost. Pentecost is a Christian holiday which takes place on the 50th day after Easter Sunday. It commemorates the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles of Jesus while they were in Jerusalem, celebrating the Feast of Weeks, which is a Jewish holiday and which is also the 50th day after the Sabbath of the Passover week. To put this occasion in very simple terms, I thought back to a time when my family moved from one home to another, which meant I was to attend a new school. Quite petrified of the idea that now I had to make new friends as a 9-year-old. I had new teachers and have to learn new routines as to how to find my way to school because now I have to walk to school instead of taking the bus. But fortunately, there was another 9-year-old who took me under her wing, walked with me to school, was in the same class that I was, and became, my very best friend. Each day we would run home for lunch, then run back to school, play together after school, have sleepovers, and you know the routine when you're young. She was my best bud, no doubt about it. She was like an advocate, my comforter as a child. But by the time we went on to junior high, there were more children from different elementary schools, and Susie and I were no longer best friends. We had new friends. As the years went on, my friendships changed. They came and they went as our lives went in different directions. So on this day of Pentecost, it has new meaning for all of us in that our human friends may change, but our spiritual friend, the Holy Spirit, is the same today, yesterday, and forever. Before Jesus ascended into heaven, he promised his apostles that the Father will send an advocate or the Paraclete or the Holy Spirit to be with them. One might think, well, that's a poor substitute for the presence of Jesus, the risen Christ. But you see, Jesus also was an advocate or Paraclete who guided his disciples, loved them and protected them, but in human form. And by being in human form, Jesus can be in one place at one time, whereas the Holy Spirit can be everywhere all at once and fully present. Quoting a piece from Father James Martin, he said, "The Spirit is not rationed. It means that the same Spirit, the one that drove Jesus into the desert, that was with him on the cross and that he breathed on the disciples, is fully and completely present to all of us." So our first reading for this day of Pentecost is from the 2nd chapter of Acts, or the Acts of the Apostles, verses 1 through 21. While the apostles and the believers were assembled in one place, this being the Sabbath of the Passover, a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole place where they were sitting. And what looked like tongues of fire came to rest on each of them, causing them to speak in other languages that those who also were assembled recognized. You may recall that in the Old Testament, fire and wind were often associated with God's presence. And on Mount Sinai, when God was establishing a covenant with Moses and with the Israelites, he declared them to be his treasured possession, and he also gave Moses the 10 Commandments. Other instances included as Moses and the Israelites were walking through the desert to get to their new home in Canaan. It was fire that was above them and was with them at night. So again, these fire and wind representations are connected to God. Our second reading is from Romans chapter 8, verses 14 through 17. Here again, the Holy Spirit is instrumental in the lives of all believers, because those who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. And if children, then heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. When we cry, Abba, Father, understand that Abba is a child's way of saying Daddy. And since we are God's children, this is a very fitting way to address our Father in heaven. Our gospel reading comes from the 14th chapter of St. John, verses 8 through 17, and verses 25 through 27. In this narrative, the Trinity is evidenced by Jesus declaring that God the Father will send God the Holy Spirit after God the Son, who is Jesus, has ascended into heaven. God sends the Spirit into the gathered community so that it can know the truth of Christ's resurrection. God the Father sends the Spirit to be our advocate, our comforter, our guide. He will teach us that everything we need to know is right there for us to learn if we just submit to Him, read the Word, and spend time in prayer. Understand and rejoice that the fact that God is not finished revealing who He is and what He has planned for us, no matter how young or how old we may be. Verse 27 tells us that the peace that Jesus will leave with the disciples is not like the peace the world gives. That is why our verses in Acts describes how the pouring out of the Spirit upon all flesh demands a different kind of peace, whereby we need to ask for forgiveness. We need to participate in repairing wrongdoings by helping those who have been wronged. And we need to be at peace as best as possible with everyone. God not only wants us to make good decisions, but He will help us to make good decisions. God will help us to recognize the signs of the Holy Spirit, which are often experiences of calm, peace, and confidence. I hope you will take some time this day and also this week to remember and maybe even sing that little song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. If you're not familiar with it, check with me and I'll sing it with you. In fact, maybe I can pull it up and play it right now. Let's see here if we can get this. I hope you like this. And that's all. I hope that you enjoy the week. Have a blessed day.